Good evening. Welcome again to our program, Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, your hostess, and as always promised, we have a very special lady with us tonight, and we'll introduce you to her in just a moment. But first, let's thank our sponsors for the first half of our program. We'd like to thank Villa Basque Deli and Cafe, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo, right here in Carson City. And we'd also like to thank Carpa Nevada, LLC, who imports fine Portuguese olive oils, aged balsamic vinegar, and international health teas that can be found right here at Villa Basque. So now let's turn to Elizabeth Patterson, who is our guest for the evening. And Elizabeth, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. You know, everyone says to Liz, we'll call her Liz, I've seen you somewhere before. And it's actually, she takes fingerprints, okay, in the police department here in Carson City. But she also has a very special professional life that she's going to introduce all of us to in just a few moments. But first, Liz, that's what you like to be called? Mm-hmm. Okay. Not only as an English teacher, okay, and as someone who loves novels, loves history, it's a real honor to have an author with me, a published author.
Thank you.
So that's impressive right off the bat. But you didn't start out as an author. No. Where were you born?
Born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Ah, okay.
Born and raised in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Bounced around a little bit as I was growing up, but most of my childhood was in Wisconsin.
So with that northern United States background in you, can you be Swedish?
No, German English.
German English with all that blonde hair, okay. I just thought, maybe we have a Norwegian or a Swede with us, okay. So what were your interests like as you were growing up as a child? Were you the only child? Did you have siblings?
I had younger siblings. My younger brother's 10 years younger than I am, and then my two sisters are younger than him.
So you're really an older sister.
So I am, and grew up with just playing by myself out in the woods. Okay. Which is where I came up with this story from.
That took you later on into your professional life, but you drew upon childhood areas of play. And, you know, as a 10-year-old, when you have younger brothers and sisters that come along, it is kind of sometimes an awkward stage because you're not quite old enough to be their second mother yet, and yet you do many things for them and with them. Was that true in your household?
All the time.
All the time.
I was the babysitter.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't like it much, but.
But you know, it teaches us a lot of things about responsibility and focus on those younger ones. So after Milwaukee, where did you kind of migrate to?
Madison, Wisconsin. Okay. Spent a lot of years there.
And that is a very fine, it's a very fine university town.
Beautiful city.
Yes, it is. Beautiful. Is that where you received your education?
No, I went to school near Fond du Lac, Wisconsin.
Yes.
And then, let's see, I was there, about 4 or 5 years, and then we moved on.
Okay,
so,
now are we talking about, you're an Army brat.
Yeah.
Oh, and that makes that's a whole world by itself in many, many ways. Now, when you're on the move like that, as a part of a family, you're in and out of school districts, sometimes very often. Was that hard on making friendships?
Yeah, always hard.
And what did you, for example, Liz, when you came out of one environment, maybe you'd been there for 2 years or 3 years, is your father or both parents in the military?
Just father.
Father, okay. So his assignments would take him in the country only or sometimes out of the country?
In the country.
All right. And how did you kind of fortify yourself to make those moves? How did you get yourself into the mood to say, okay, I can do this. Here we go again.
I did a lot of daydreaming. Like I said, my brother and sisters are a lot younger than I am. So I didn't have a whole lot of friends.
Okay.
Spent a lot of time by myself, daydreaming all the time.
Well, did you do a lot of reading?
I read quite a bit when I was in my teenage years, but not as a child so much.
What were those interests that you picked up on in your reading?
Fairy tales.
Fairy tales. Something that didn't have to do necessarily with reality.
Right.
Okay. And it's kind of a wishful life, isn't it? And I think that I'm in agreement with you. As children, and I can't speak for young boys, but I can certainly express myself as being a young woman, a young girl. You often lay around a window on your stomach on the floor, out in a hammock, off by yourself, imagining what would it be like if I could do this or be there?
Yeah, it's a world in its own. I mean, you can get lost in your imagination, the things that you can think of.
The places you can go.
Oh, I know.
So that was a gift that appeared in you. I mean, you were starting to sense it. It was strong. It was strong. All right, so after Madison, where did life take you?
Across the river into Minnesota, across the Mississippi into Minnesota.
Yes.
Had a couple small jobs there, nothing major.
All right.
But lived there before I came here for about 6-7 years.
And when, let me kind of bring us ahead. When did you know that you had a book inside of you?
I was at work one day, and I had just finished reading the first 2 Harry Potter books.
Okay.
And I thought, I've been daydreaming about fairies all my childhood. I got a story in me I bet I could write. So it just started out as a joke. It was nothing that I planned on doing, is writing an entire book. It was just a story.
Okay.
Started writing it at work, and then it just kind of snowballed. The ideas just started coming, and I don't know where they came from, the ideas. That just, once I put my hand to the paper and I start writing, that's when everything just comes out of my brain. And if I could explain it, I would, but I don't know where the story came from.
It's a gift. And I can kind of identify with you. I like to write, but I have to be in a place that's conducive for me to relax, to have the thoughts come to me. And then, as you say, it comes out of your arm. I'm a lefty, okay? It comes out of my left arm into my hand, and it flows. And I have no idea 5 minutes before that those thoughts were ever going to come out on paper. But do you also like language? Do you like vocabulary? Do you like words?
I wasn't very good in English in school, which is really surprising that I'm actually writing books now.
Yes, yes.
Not really.
Okay, so let's try and get over this bridge. Let's get over this hump. Here's a child of an Army family, and you're the oldest in the family, and you find yourself, 10 years difference in age between the next sibling. And so for you, you're moving on, you're going to be making new friends in a new school, and that's a daunting experience for a teenager.
Scary.
It's very scary. And I remember having students of my own, military, who would be in and out of my classes, and it was not an easy life for them. And they tended to put their resentment rather than their talents out on the table for everyone to see. You chose a talent. And unknowingly, it's in you, it's developing. Now, of these books that are on the table, is your original book your first one amongst them?
Yes.
Which one is it?
Bonner's Ferry, very first one.
Bonner's Ferry. Okay. Are all the books named Bonner's Ferry?
Yes. And then the subtitle is kind of what the story's about.
Okay, so in this particular one, it has no subtitle because it's the first one.
Correct.
Now, help us understand. This is a series. And where is Bonner?
Where's Bonner or Bonner's Ferry?
Bonner's Ferry. Is it a place?
Yes.
Is it a person?
It's a place.
All right.
When I first started writing this book, was like on my second chapter. Almost going to lose those.
Okay.
I was traveling through Idaho, southern Idaho.
Yes.
And I didn't have a title for my book yet, and I saw the name Bonner's Ferry on the map. But Bonner's Ferry is spelled Ferry. But I knew it was a fairy story, and I thought that would be the perfect title for the book.
All right.
So that's how I came upon the title.
Now, when you have a book, you also have to have creatures, characters. How did you decide upon that?
Well, I knew we were going to have fairies, obviously.
All right.
But I wasn't quite sure what other kinds of creatures I was going to have until I started writing and put them in certain situations and in different places. And then I would think, oh, wow, yeah, a witch would be good. So I created a witch and a sorcerer and all kinds of mystical creatures. And
we know from past movie scripts, that witches have played a very important role in moviedom. Okay.
Yes.
So, all All right, once you create these characters, how descriptive, how developed do you make them for a child or an adult to read?
Well, I try to describe what they look like and kind of what
Yes.
their mannerisms are like. My main characters, how she feels,
Yes.
the things that are going on in her life and her dreams.
So that's a quick identification for a potential reader. I've felt those things before. Maybe I should read a little bit more. Okay.
Yes.
Now, are your readers primarily children?
No.
Oh.
I have mostly adult readers. They appeal mostly, I think, to teenage girls because my main character is a 15-year-old
All right.
girl.
Okay.
But I have 80-year-olds reading my books. And I think one of the draws for that age group is that the very first chapter I start out in the 1800s when life was very tough, didn't have the modern conveniences that you have these days.
Right.
And I do a lot of descriptive writing, of their way of living and that kind of thing.
So that implies they've also had to do quite a bit of research into what those times were like.
Yeah, I had a lot of relatives that had it rough. We had it rough too, but I remember that those were such joyous times, as long as I stayed in one place long enough.
Okay.
But I had such wonderful experiences, and I often dream about going back to some of the places that I've lived in and just to visit them.
And do you think, Liz, that simplicity, how do I say this? Sometimes the very simple things of life are what give us the most pleasure.
I agree.
And things tend to clutter up our world and put stress and pressure on us. So in your stories that begin in the 1800s, do you eventually bring us up into
Yes.
modern times? But it began. So there is history involved in these books as well. All right. Now, the second one, is this the second book?
Yes.
Okay, and it has a subtitle, A New Kind of Battle. What are we talking about?
Well, in book one, my main characters discover a hidden portal on their property. It's a 200-year-old estate that the founder of the town was named Bonner. And they moved onto that estate 200 years later and discovered there's a hidden portal there.
Okay.
So they eventually get inside the portal and they meet the fairies that are there. And the fairies have a horrible battle against an evil being that's in their world that they don't know how to fight. They are such good, harmonious creatures that they don't understand it. And
I'm going to come back in the second half, and we're going to continue with the battle, that you might not have imagined I could bring up, okay? All right, we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Are you ready? Football is back, and it's your turn to score with Carson Nuggets Touchdown to Cash drawings, where you can win up to $50,000. Come down every Friday and Saturday for your chance to win big.
Apex SCF provides cutting-edge, hands-on training that effectively addresses today's threats of violence.
The Apex Stay Alive course teaches proven methods for personal protection and attack countermeasures that can be applied in any environment. In your home, at the workplace, or on campus, Apex will teach you the necessary skills to stay alive, including how to recognize and react to an active shooter scenario.
If you knew you had to fight for your life tomorrow, would you train today? Contact us now to sign up for a class in your region.
Hi, I'm Stephen Lincoln with CarsonCityHomes.com, Carson City's original online real estate resource.
At CarsonCityHomes.com, you get effective and easy-to-use tools to help you select your next home today. With our easy-to-use website, you can search listings throughout Northern Nevada and narrow the results by selecting every facet, quirk, and quality you desire. Visit CarsonCityHomes.com.
Are you looking for a healthier lifestyle? A more nutritious diet? Do you care about quality? If your answer is yes, or if you are just curious, come into Villa Basque Deli and Cafe right here in Carson City, Nevada. Discover fine Portuguese extra virgin olive oils, vintage balsamic vinegars, and a wide assortment of international health teas provided by distributor Carpa Nevada LLC. In addition to these terrific items, Villa Basque is also the home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo, handmade on the premises from Pete's secret family recipe. Satisfy your culinary curiosities. Don't delay.
Join us at the Carson Nugget for The Prize is Right, our 3 million point swipe and win giveaway happening every Sunday through Thursday. You can win up to 100,000 points instantly at our kiosk, and all you have to do is swipe. Only at the Carson Nugget.
Welcome back to the second half of Women to Women. We're here with Elizabeth Patterson, who likes to be called Liz, by the way, and we're going to give her a challenge, so to speak, in just a moment. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors for the second half of the show. CarsonNow.org is the place to go on the internet for all of the latest events happening right here in Carson City. Remember that name, CarsonNow.org. And we'd also like to thank the Nevada Appeal and the Record Courier for their constant reminders to all of us to shop locally, support our local business people, and remember to look for their coupons and their Sunday editions. They help all of us. So let's return to Liz. Liz, we're learning about you that in many ways you were a very private young woman, okay, but lots going on inside of your brain. And eventually that was going to be shared with the public. Now, I know it's not an easy thing to get a book published. And it's not an easy thing what you also do to help probably, not only pay the bills, but let's say to add support to other areas of your life. And that's as a fingerprinter in the sheriff's office here in Carson City?
Yes.
Do any of the characters that you fingerprint ever find their way into any of your books as
No.
a character? Okay, all right. Okay, now why, what is it about police work or what brought you into police work as well?
Well, I worked up at Harrah's in Lake Tahoe in security for 4 years, and I did dispatch there, and loved it. However, I became engaged to one of my supervisors, which meant that I could no longer be in the department any longer. But I wanted to stay
Conflict of interest.
I wanted to stay in that kind of a field, so I
Yes.
applied for a position at the sheriff's office and got hired.
Excellent.
And been there 7 years.
Okay, excellent. Now, the skills or the environment, let's put it this way, within a police department, does it ever give you ideas to maybe think about in terms of putting into books from time to time? Mysterious people, mysterious events, circumstances. Has that ever occurred to you yet?
No,
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
A lot of my characters are family members, though. I've taken their names, their nicknames.
Yes. So, I think that that's an important issue with the public when they go to buy a book, because we want to know, and I'm a buyer of books all the time, okay? If this author is going to draw me in because they really have an intimate knowledge of the behaviors, the characters that they're presenting to me, because that's what makes them come alive on the page. So you've selected family members, okay? Any friends, any other types of personages you've run into?
There's just a couple of friends that I know that I've like at work. Yes, there's one.
Okay.
Actually, two. One is not working there any longer, but there were a couple of people that, well, the second one that, book 5 actually introduced one of the guys that work at the sheriff's office. He said, why don't you put me in my book, in your book? And I said, okay, I will. And I did.
And you did, and you did.
And he's very shocked.
Did he recognize himself?
Well, I told him all about himself.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. You should let him let these characters find out if they can find themselves in your books. Okay, if they recognize what their characteristics really are. You do. Okay. So, Liz, help us understand how long ago did you get your first book published?
The first book I published in 2010.
Or relatively recently. Now, what kind of a process is that? Is it tough?
Well, I did self-publishing. I did not go through a traditional publisher.
Okay.
Which was quite easy, actually. They do all the work for you. You have all the rights to your book and everything that's in it. You make all the decisions on what you want, which is wonderful. And now with a traditional publisher, you're kind of at their mercy, as far as, making decisions on such things. So.
Well, this would really eat into the market of the established publishing houses, wouldn't it?
Well, it could, I suppose, but it's a print-on-demand company.
Okay.
So bookstores that want to buy it, they can just order whatever quantities that they want.
Okay, that
and
is very
same for me
convenient.
too. If
Very
I want
convenient.
20 copies, if I'm getting low on one book, I can just order as many as I want to and get them there when I need them.
Excuse me. How has the public taken to your line of books? How do you know whether you're doing well or not?
Well, the best compliment that I've received is from quite a few people actually, and they all say the same thing. They say, when I'm reading your stories, I feel like I'm there. And that
is a high compliment.
Been the best compliment. I couldn't have wished for anything more than that.
Now, I'm wondering, okay, that is a remarkable, very special compliment, as you say, but when they say, I feel like I'm there must be movement. There must be perspective within your novels that absolutely draws the reader into it.
It's a very big adventure, and so many people that I know love adventure stories. I do myself.
Yes.
It's not as dark as the Harry Potter novels were. I wanted to, have scary parts in it and
Yes.
stuff, but it's nowhere near as dark, and it's delighted a couple of people that read them that didn't know what to expect, because a lot of them have thought that this was a fairy tale for children, but it's not.
It's not.
I've got
That's
a
wonderful.
very wide range of readers, and
What have you learned about yourself as a person in the writing of your books? What have you done that you never thought perhaps could ever happen?
what have I done?
Or what have you learned about yourself as a writer?
Well, one of my main character, a lot of my characteristics are in her.
Okay.
And it's kind of fun just to look back at your life and all the memories that I've had growing up, and being able to put those things into her character. And she's going through not the same exact circumstances, but she's growing up.
And do you allow, what is her name?
Haley
Haley.
Miles.
Haley Miles. And do you allow Haley to have hurts, to be wounded?
Oh yes.
Okay, because that's a part of the process of maturation.
She's made mistakes that she has to come to grips with. I try to put in good morals because I was raised with good morals, and I think are very important, especially nowadays with the way the world is these days. I think it's really important to put something like that in there, so that when a kid does pick up the book and read it, they say, "Oh wow, I never thought of that."
Very much so. I have 3 granddaughters that I'm very careful what books I select, and they're all readers. They're excellent readers, but they are they're approaching their teenage years, and one will shortly be there. So it's important to me, not only as their grandparent, but as a teacher, and as hopefully a guide in some aspect with their lives, to really allow them to sink their teeth into challenges, but to see that there's integrity in decision making. And so I will not buy books. Now, the dark side of the Harry Potter books was probably what kept me from buying for my own son. Because I felt that it was a world, she's had a tremendous success, but as a choice, I chose not to put that dark side into my son's hands. Could have been a mistake, might not have been. He doesn't know Harry Potter. He doesn't attend the movies, all right? And he's fine, he's fine. So that's a consideration that came from your childhood. What were some of the disciplinary actions, or let's put it a different way, what were some of the disciplinary behaviors that you came out of childhood with that were important, that you could rely upon, they were foundational to you?
Disciplinary.
Did they come from your parents? Did they come from experience?
I think a little of both.
Okay. What do you remember as, now going back in your childhood, as something that you learned that has served you well in your books, and both as a person, as a professional person?
Well, that's a tough question.
Well, when you talk about, morals, or you talk about behaviors, what's one that Haley has that you want to make sure she has all the way through every book?
She's jumped to conclusions on a few occasions, made assumptions about people that before she knew them. That has been a big lesson for her in quite a few characters.
Good.
Where she's come to realize, oh my gosh, how could I have been so wrong? And she has to ask forgiveness. And she makes herself do it because she knows it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
So I think telling the truth and being honest is a huge thing in all the books.
And it's a huge thing in our world today. It's always been a huge thing, no matter what era we lived in. We happen to have been given, the 21st century and the 20th century in our situation to grow up in, which for me is never an accident. I don't think it was. I think we were supposed to grow up at a certain time and in a certain place. A lot of people would disagree with me on that, but we use so much of who we are, and we use it to convey to others what's our sense of importance. And if you're going to be an author, and you're a published author, it's a huge responsibility, isn't it, to pass
It is.
to pass these books on into the hands of somebody else. How seriously do you take that?
There are a couple of scenes in there where I could have stepped over the line, and I knew, wow, well, look at the audience, look at the age group that are picking up these books, and I had to take a really good hard look at it before I completed writing the chapter to make sure that there wasn't anything in there that would not be moral, you know what I mean? My characters, they get married.
Okay.
And I didn't want to get involved in,
Right. And I think what you're also saying is you don't want to be held accountable for letting some young reader walk off on a path that you know as an adult could bring heartache.
No way.
Okay. It's a huge accountability, isn't it?
It is.
When you have something published and put out there for the masses to read, you think twice. You think 3 times, because once you put it down on paper and it's published, it's not retrievable.
Can't take it back. Yeah.
Can't take it back. You can't take it back. Where do you see yourself going, Liz, with your books?
I have one more to write in this series, which I've begun. My husband thinks I have more than that, but I don't know how much further I can go with the story. I've thought of other types of like romantic novel maybe, or a murder mystery maybe.
Another genre altogether.
Yeah, and also have some interest in making it a movie, and I would love that. So I'm exploring that avenue right now. I've got a couple of people that are looking at the books. So.
Well, you know what? I'm going to encourage our listening audience and our watching audience to stop by. Where are these books available?
You can go to Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. I do sell them out of my house.
Okay.
You can go to my website and you can
we'll put all that
there.
information up on the screen for our audience.
So and if you just Google the title, you can buy it from all kinds of different stores, bookstores.
Okay, so if we remember Bonner's Ferry, the original book, it'll take us to the other books.
Yes.
I think it's going to be a really good read. I'm going to take a look at several of them as an adult and make sure for my granddaughters. I think they're going to get these as Christmas gifts.
That'd be great. That'd be great, yes.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you, Carol,
sharing
for
your
having
story.
me on.
Okay, it's a pleasure.
Okay.
We wish you the very best with your career.
Thank you so much.
And let her be an inspiration to all of us that our lives really do count for a whole lot of things. We'll find Elizabeth right in there as the main character. We'll be back next week with a brand new guest. In the meantime, have a good evening. Good night.